Welcome to California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance, and we are joined today by Bill Bogaard. He is the mayor of the city of Pasadena, but he is leaving that office voluntarily after 40 years, essentially, in Pasadena politics. There was a short break, but it's hard to deny that the name Bogaard and Pasadena have been in unison for decades. Mayor, I honor you. I congratulate you,
Thank you
on a successful run. Let's go back to 1978, when you were first elected to the Pasadena City Council. Why was a successful lawyer choosing to run for the City Council of Pasadena in the late 70s?
I had been president of West Pasadena Residents Association for 3 years before that time, and had taken an interest in urban affairs and the progress of the city and urban issues. And when this opening occurred on the council from my section of the city, my friends
you're elected by districts, even back then.
That's true. We're elected by districts, and my friend said to me, try this and see if it doesn't work for you, even though you're a busy lawyer and you have children at home. And I went on to serve 8 years.
Yet at the end of that 8 years, in 1986, you chose not to continue your service.
That's true.
Why did you choose to opt out of service?
At that point, I was extremely busy in my what people call day job.
Right.
And
were you a partner at a law firm then, or had you moved on to being general counsel?
I had moved on to being general counsel at First Interstate, and it was a period of bank consolidation.
Yes.
A few years later, or at the end of my stay at First Interstate, we merged with Wells Fargo. So there was a lot for a lawyer to do in a banking organization, and I felt that 8 years was a long time, and needed to have more time for my work.
So you had escaped. You had escaped for 13 years. Yet in 1999, Pasadena had made a change. And that change called for the direct election of mayor.
Exactly.
You had been rotating your mayor.
Yes.
After escaping for 13 years, what made you decide to now come back and opt in?
It was very attractive to consider being the first directly elected mayor. And my friends came and said, help us on this, set the tone for the position. You don't have to stay more than one term, 4 years.
The famous last words.
Famous last words. So here I am 16 years later, having a wonderful experience and so many reassuring and supportive actions on the part of the people of Pasadena.
And I want to talk about these last 16 years, but let's go back to that election, because in a lot of ways it was an historic election. You were running against Chris Holden,
yes,
now a member of the California State Assembly, and as I understand it, a good friend of yours.
Yes, he is.
He is African American, the son of a very well-known at the time. I mean, Nate Holden's still with us.
Certainly.
LA City Council member, state senator. So that was a pretty, hard-fought race, I would presume.
It was a hard-fought race.
Talk to us about that race.
Well, there were 10 total
initially,
candidates, and when the count was made in the first election, in the general election, it was Chris and I who were the top two vote getters. One other vote getter, an incumbent city council member, got 24% of the vote. Chris had received 25%, and all 7 of the others shared about 6 or 7%.
But you didn't break that 50%.
I didn't. No, I was required. We were required to run off.
So let's talk about the last 16 years, which in a lot of ways has been transformative for your city. When I was growing up, I grew up in the West San Fernando Valley. Pasadena, and again, this takes us back to the 70s, but Pasadena was fairly homogeneous. Not a lot of ethnic diversity nor economic diversity. At least that was the perception. Whether it was true, I don't know, but that was the perception. By the beginning of the 21st century, Pasadena had become more heterogeneous, both ethnically and economically.
No question.
Talk to us about that transformation.
Well, over time, the most dramatic change in the demographics of the city occurred in the last 30 years, and that is a dramatic increase in the number of Latino persons of Latino heritage. That percentage moved from 1980 from about 10% to the current level of 33%. Meanwhile, there were ethnic roots in Pasadena, Latino, African American, even Asian.
Right.
But the predominant minority member was African American.
This is prior to the demographic shift.
This is prior to the democratic shift. Today, as I mentioned, Latino persons represent a third of the population. Caucasians, non-Armenian, about a third. And then there are maybe 10% for Asians, 10% for Armenians, 8% for African Americans.
And do you find that the ethnic groups, the economically diverse groups, interacting well? Is it a city that is well-heeled, that supports itself?
I take some pride in thinking that the city does celebrate diversity and accept differences and comes together to work. It's always a challenge, but I hope if there's one legacy that I leave, it's one that says to the Pasadena community, be part of the community,
Right.
come together, reach agreement, support one another.
It's also hard to deny that under your tutelage, we saw tremendous economic growth in Pasadena. I mean, that Colorado Boulevard, is that the street I'm saying?
Yes, Main Street.
That is magnificent. It is just magnificent. I mean, I took my wife and daughters there over the Christmas holidays.
Right.
I mean, I could walk around. I'm getting chills because I could walk around there forever. It goes on, and it doesn't feel that seriously impacted. I mean, that was on your watch, sir.
Well, a lot of political reputation is based on circumstances.
Okay, you're humble.
In Pasadena, it's based on the fact that so many people are willing to work together to build a stronger community, to volunteer, to make contributions, to come together. And the role of mayor is uniquely rewarding because I have the chance to play a role in bringing people together and asking them for help in reaching goals that might not otherwise be achieved.
What will you tell your successor? To the extent they turn to you and say, sir, do you have any advice to offer, which I presume they will. You know, you are an institution. I say that with all the love and respect it's intended. What advice would you offer?
Well, I would say that the most prominent part of my administration, if I listen to the voters, is the style with which the council has conducted business, the civility.
Right.
It's not a word I use very often. Apparently I have a natural tendency to listen to people, to respect their views, to give them a full opportunity to speak. But frankly, my colleagues do the same thing on the council. So I would say that I hope the tradition of civil discourse based on facts and with respect for the views of others, even when there are strong differences, that continues to grow and be a very much a part of how city of Pasadena governs itself.
And what a wonderful legacy that would be. We see a lot of discourse that is less than civil.
Exactly.
And I hope that in Pasadena it will continue. I honor you. I congratulate you on 16 very successful years as mayor of the beautiful city of Pasadena. 8 a couple decades before that. His name is Bill Bogaard. He is still mayor of Pasadena. I have a feeling he'll be traveling to Europe to visit some of his family who is living there, and I'm sure great things are yet to come. My name is Brad Pomerance. I want to thank you so much for joining us on California Vision.